Adding and subtracting fractions with pi is a necessity when working with the unit circle or reference angles. And so this is a worksheet that will help you master that skill. The first three reference angles are pi over 6, pi over 4, and pi over 3. Or in terms of degrees, you're talking about your 30, 45, and 60 degrees. Now, when you have a 1 pi, it's the same thing as 6 pi over 6, 4 pi over 4, and 3 pi over 3. Being able to switch the 1 into equivalent fractions is a necessity. Also, 2 pi is equal to the following by multiplying top and the bottom by the same numbers, such as if you have a 6 on the bottom, you would be multiplying the top by 12, so you end up with 2. Or you could think about 2 times 6 over 6 gives you 12 pi over 6. Then when you go down to doing problems like these, when you have a 1 pi over 6, you want common denominators. So it would be 6 pi over 6, which is equal to 7 pi over 6. When you have a 2 pi, it's the same thing as multiplying by 6 over 6 again. So it's really 12 pi over 6 minus pi over 6 is 11 pi over 6. When you get down to the unit circle and you want to apply the angles, the quadrantal angles first, this is 0 or 2 pi, and you go up by pi over 2, so multiples of pi over 2. Then when you want to fill in the other ones, the reference angles are going to be pi over 6, pi over 4, and pi over 3. And you're going to choose any of them and work around the other parts of the circle. So for example, pi over 6, this is going to be 1 pi minus pi over 6 gives you 5 pi over 6. The other way to think about it is what plus pi over 6 gives you 1 pi. Adding pi over 6 is going to be 6 pi over 6 plus pi over 6, which is 7 pi over 6. And taking 12 pi over 6 minus pi over 6 is 11 pi over 6. Or what plus pi over 6 gives you 12 pi over 6. And then you could do the same thing with pi over 4 and pi over 3. Choose one and work around the unit circle. Hopefully that will give you a better understanding on how to add and subtract numbers, reference angles, to get the other angles around the unit circle.